They said it couldn't be done, condense 400 years of American history into 15 minutes. But here's the thing, America itself was built by people doing things that couldn't be done. So let's do this. Buckle up. We're about to sprint through revolution, civil war, 2 world wars, a cold war, moon landings, and everything in between. This is the entire history of the United States of America, and we're starting right now. Before there was America, there were people. Indigenous nations, hundreds of them, had lived on this land for thousands of years. The Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Cherokee Nation, the Lakota, the Navajo. Complex societies with governments, trade networks, and rich cultures. Remember that. It matters. Then Europeans showed up. First the Spanish in Florida, 1565. Then the English at Jamestown, Virginia, 1607, and they almost starved to death immediately. Turns out, starting a colony is hard when you send gentlemen who've never farmed a day in their lives. The Pilgrims landed at Plymouth Rock in 1620, seeking religious freedom. They also almost died. A Native American named Squanto taught them to farm. Without him, there's no Thanksgiving, no colony, no America. Write that down. More colonies popped up. Massachusetts, New York, Pennsylvania. By the 1700s, 13 British colonies lined the Atlantic coast. They were making money, tobacco, cotton, trade, and Britain was taking a healthy cut through taxes. Then Britain got greedy. After the French and Indian War ended in 1763, Parliament decided the colonies should pay more taxes. Stamp Act? Tea Act. Taxes on everything. The colonists said, no taxation without representation. Britain said, pay up anyway. Boston Tea Party, 1773. Colonists dressed as Native Americans dumped British tea into the harbor. Britain responded by shutting down Boston's port. Tensions escalated. April 19, 1775. Lexington and Concord. British troops marched to seize colonial weapons. Minutemen met them. Someone fired, nobody knows who. The shot heard round the world. The Revolutionary War had begun. The Continental Congress met and did something crazy. They declared independence. July 4, 1776. Thomas Jefferson wrote it. All men are created equal. Powerful words. Hypocritical too, Jefferson owned slaves. America's birth contained its original sin. The war lasted 8 years. George Washington commanded the Continental Army. They were outgunned, outmanned, freezing at Valley Forge. But they had something Britain didn't. They were fighting for their home. France helped too, crucial naval support. October 1781. Yorktown. British General Cornwallis surrendered. Against all odds, America had won. The peace treaty was signed in 1783. The United States of America was real. Now what? 13 separate states, barely cooperating. The Articles of Confederation weren't working. So in 1787, delegates met in Philadelphia to write a constitution. They created something revolutionary, a democratic republic with checks and balances. 3 branches of government. Power divided so no one could become a tyrant. George Washington became the first president in 1789. He served 2 terms and then, here's the miracle, he voluntarily gave up power. That almost never happened in history. Kings didn't retire. Washington did. He set the precedent. America started expanding west. The Louisiana Purchase, 1803, Thomas Jefferson bought 828,000 square miles from France for $15 million. Doubled the size of the country overnight. Lewis and Clark explored it, with crucial help from Sacagawea, a Shoshone woman who guided them. But expansion meant conflict. Native Americans were forced off their land. The Indian Removal Act of 1830 led to the Trail of Tears. Thousands of Cherokee died marching to Oklahoma. America's growth came at a terrible price. Meanwhile, the slavery issue festered. The North was industrializing, moving away from slavery. The South's economy depended on it: cotton plantations, tobacco farms. The tension grew unbearable. Abraham Lincoln was elected president in 1860. Southern states panicked. They thought he'd abolish slavery. 11 states seceded, formed the Confederate States of America. April 12, 1861. Fort Sumter, South Carolina. Confederate forces fired on the Union fort. The Civil War began. It lasted 4 brutal years. Brother fought brother. The bloodiest war in American history. 620,000 dead. Gettysburg. Antietam. Sherman's March to the Sea. Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, freeing slaves in Confederate territory. The war became about ending slavery, not just preserving the Union. April 9, 1865. Robert E. Lee surrendered at Appomattox Courthouse. The Union won. The United States would stay united. 5 days later, John Wilkes Booth assassinated Lincoln at Ford's Theater. America's greatest president, killed just as he'd saved the nation. Reconstruction followed, rebuilding the South, integrating freed slaves. It was messy, incomplete. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments abolished slavery and granted citizenship and voting rights to black Americans. But Jim Crow laws and segregation rose in the South. The promise of equality remained unfulfilled. The late 1800s saw explosive growth. Railroads connected the coasts. The Transcontinental Railroad completed in 1869. Industry boomed: steel, oil, manufacturing. Rockefeller, Carnegie, Vanderbilt, robber barons built empires. Immigrants poured in: Irish, Italian, Eastern European, Chinese. The Statue of Liberty went up in 1886, declaring, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses." America was becoming a melting pot. The frontier closed around 1890. America had expanded from sea to shining sea. Native Americans had been pushed onto reservations. Manifest destiny was complete, at a devastating cost to indigenous peoples. The 20th century arrived. America was flexing its muscles internationally. The Spanish-American War in 1898 made America a colonial power: Puerto Rico, Guam, the Philippines. World War I erupted in Europe in 1914. America stayed neutral at first. Then German submarines started sinking American ships. The Zimmermann telegram revealed Germany was trying to get Mexico to attack the U.S. April 1917. America entered the war. "The world must be made safe for democracy," President Wilson declared. American troops helped turn the tide. The war ended November 11, 1918. The 1920s roared. Jazz. Flappers. Prohibition. Alcohol was illegal, so naturally everyone drank more. The economy boomed. The stock market soared. Everyone was getting rich. October 1929. The stock market crashed. The bubble burst. The Great Depression began. Banks failed. Unemployment hit 25%. Breadlines stretched for blocks. The Dust Bowl devastated farmers. America was desperate. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was elected president in 1932. "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself," he said. The New Deal: massive government programs to put people back to work. Social security. Labor protections. Government intervention on a scale America had never seen. Then came World War II. Hitler was conquering Europe. Japan was conquering Asia. America wanted to stay out of it. December 7, 1941. Pearl Harbor. Japanese planes attacked Hawaii. Over 2,400 Americans died. The next day, America declared war. America mobilized everything. Factories converted to war production. Women took factory jobs: Rosie the Riveter. 16 million Americans served in the military. D-Day. June 6, 1944. Allied forces stormed Normandy beaches. The beginning of the end for Nazi Germany. In the Pacific, island hopping campaigns. Brutal fighting. Iwo Jima. Okinawa. Harry Truman became president when FDR died in April 1945. Germany surrendered in May. But Japan fought on. Truman made a terrible decision that ended the war: atomic bombs. Hiroshima. Nagasaki. August 6th and 9th, 1945. Over 200,000 dead. Japan surrendered August 15th. World War II was over. America emerged as a superpower, the only major nation whose homeland hadn't been destroyed. The American century had begun. But a new conflict started immediately: the Cold War. America versus the Soviet Union. Capitalism versus communism. Democracy versus dictatorship. A war fought through proxies, spies, and nuclear threats. The 1950s. Suburbs exploded. Television became common. Rock and roll was born. America was prosperous, but beneath the surface, inequality raged. The civil rights movement erupted. Brown versus Board of Education, 1954, school segregation unconstitutional. Rosa Parks refused to give up her bus seat, 1955. Martin Luther King Jr. led marches, gave speeches. I have a dream. Meanwhile, the Cold War heated up. Korea. Vietnam. The space race: America versus the Soviets to reach space. The Soviets launched Sputnik first. America responded with NASA. John F. Kennedy became president in 1961. Young, charismatic. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. Cuban Missile Crisis, 1962. Soviet nuclear missiles in Cuba. 13 Days of Terror. Nuclear war seemed inevitable. Somehow, Kennedy and Khrushchev backed down. Humanity survived. November 22, 1963. Dallas. Kennedy was assassinated. The nation mourned. Lyndon Johnson became president, passed landmark civil rights legislation. The Civil Rights Act of 1964. The Voting Rights Act of 1965. Legal segregation finally ended. But Vietnam was escalating. 500,000 American troops. Protests erupted. Hell no, we won't go! The country was tearing itself apart. July 20th, 1969. Apollo 11. Neil Armstrong walked on the moon. One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. America had won the space race. The 1970s. Watergate. President Nixon resigned in disgrace, 1974. Faith in government shattered. The Vietnam War ended in 1975, America's first major military defeat. The 1980s. Ronald Reagan. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. The Cold War was winding down. The Berlin Wall fell in 1989. The Soviet Union collapsed in 1991. America stood alone as the world's superpower. The 1990s brought prosperity. The Internet revolution. The dot-com boom. America was the indispensable nation. Then came September 11, 2001. Terrorist attacks on New York and Washington. Nearly 3,000 dead. America's sense of invulnerability shattered. The war on terror began. Afghanistan. Iraq. 2 decades of conflict. 2008, economic crisis. The Great Recession. Banks collapsed. Unemployment soared. Barack Obama became the first black president. Yes, we can. 8 years later, Donald Trump won, the most unconventional president in history. 4 years after that, Joe Biden. And here we are. 2025. America is still the world's largest economy, most powerful military. But it's also deeply divided. Political polarization. Debates over immigration, healthcare, climate change, racial justice. So what is America? It's a nation built on beautiful ideals, liberty, equality, democracy, that it's never fully lived up to. It's a country of immigrants that's often unwelcoming to immigrants. It's a beacon of freedom that's also committed terrible injustices. It's a place where enslaved people built the White House. Where women couldn't vote until 1920. where Japanese Americans were interned during World War II, where segregation lasted a century after slavery ended. But it's also a place where those injustices were fought and partially overcome, where movements for civil rights, women's rights, LGBTQ rights made real progress, where people still believe they can make things better. America isn't exceptional because it's perfect. It's exceptional because it's always arguing about how to be better. The Constitution can be amended. Laws can be changed. Progress is possible. From 13 colonies to 50 states. From 3 million people to 330 million. From an agricultural backwater to a technological superpower. From isolation to global leadership. In less than 250 years, America went from impossible dream to undeniable reality. The story isn't over. It's still being written. By immigrants and native-born citizens. By activists and entrepreneurs. By soldiers and teachers and scientists and artists. By you. That's the history of the United States in 15 minutes. We skipped a lot. Apologies to William Howard Taft, the Teapot Dome scandal, and the entire state of Delaware. But you get the idea. America, deeply flawed, constantly evolving, stubbornly hopeful. A 250-year experiment in democracy that's somehow still going. Here's hoping it makes it to 500.